Hello. I know I usually do a wacky intro for my videos, but this time, it's a serious topic. In case you don't know, today is the 127th anniversary for New Zealand's worst mining disaster. The Brunner Mine Disaster is a mine explosion that happened on the 26th of March 1896, resulting in the deaths of 65 men and boys, leaving 37 widows and 186 children fatherless. In the early morning of the 26th of March, 65 men and boys began the morning shift at the Brunner Mine near Greymouth, New Zealand. It was supposed to be a normal day of work for the workers, but unfortunately, it was anything but. At 9:30 a.m., an underground explosion of considerable magnitude occurred. Eyewitnesses reported hearing what sounded like artillery fire, and then seeing thick black smoke billowing from the mine entrance. It was horrible. Most of the men passed instantly from the explosion, and the men that survived the explosion suffocated from black damp released by the explosion. Only two men, Charles Baxter and Patrick McDonald, made it out of the mine alive, but by then their lungs were already weak from black damp, and both succumbed to the black damp as soon as they got outside. No one survived. It took 5 days to recover the remains from the mine, and when it was finished, a mass funeral was held at the Brunner, and 53 of the 65 were buried in the Stillwater Cemetery. 33 were buried in the same grave. Meanwhile, the New Zealand Prime Minister at the time, Richard John Seddon, sent a donation fund out, and all of New Zealand contributed. Around $32,000 was raised and divided between the families of those killed. The Brunner Mine stayed active until 1906, when it closed down for good and turned into a historic site decades later. Then, on the 26th of March 1996, exactly 100 years after the disaster, a statue of a miner was erected at the site bearing the names of the 65 killed, along with the names of other miners that died in West Coast mines. This was, and still is, the Brunner Mine Memorial. The 65 men and boys killed in the Brunner Mine disaster were John Allen, David Anderson, Charles Baxter, George Baxter, Joseph Baxter, Thomas Beeman, William Boyd, Michael Brislin, Thomas Clark, Edward Collins, William Cunliffe, Henry Denson, Harry Deterrent, Robert Duncan, John Dunn, Frederick Franklin, James Georgigan, Jeffrey Georgigan, David Hall, William Henderson, Thomas Heslin, Benjamin Hill, David Hooley, William Hunter, Charles James, Henry Julian, William Keir, Edward Kent, John Langdon, William Liddell, Josiah Masters, Mark Masters, James McDonald, Patrick McDonald, Joseph McIvor, Thomas McIvor, William McKinnon, Robert McLusky, William McLusky, Peter McMahon, James McMinn, William Mooney, Thomas Moore Sr., Thomas Moore Jr., John Morris, Richard O'Loughlin, John Parsons, Robert Pascoe Sr., Robert Pascoe Jr., John Pattinson, Paul Pelon, James Richards, David Roberts, John Roberts, Samuel Roberts, William Roberts, James Rao, Joseph Scobo, James Scott, Humphrey Smith, John Tewart, John Watchman, John White, Alfred Williams, and James Worthley. And that's the story of the Brunner Mine Disaster, 1896.